What's up, Rapids fans? And on this week's edition of The Rundown presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, Colorado ends even with Seattle on the weekend. Then they'll head east to the nation's capital to take on DC United, and we'll go off the pitch with Jackson Travis. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody, to the Colorado Rapids podcast, to this week's edition of The Rundown presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. I am your host, Mike Ravolo, joined alongside my good friend and the resident Rapids legend, Drew Moore. Drewby, how we doing, dude, after this weekend? How we doing overall?
Doing well overall. Doing well. A good performance, I felt like, on Saturday night against Seattle. Could have taken all 3 points for a couple different reasons. But I feel like this is the time of the year where you kind of get into a little bit of a routine, right? We're 10 matches in, I think, right? 10. And so you kind of find a rhythm, and then that's all going to probably go sideways in May because we're getting midweek matches now, coming up. And so the depth and the energy and all those things will be tested. But, yeah, I feel good this morning. It's a little cool and breezy out.
Compared to
morning.
Sunday. Sunday was very, very warm.
Yeah.
I was breaking a sweat a little bit going out just doing groceries. I was like, oh, my goodness. Like,
That wasn't because it was warm.
No, I think I'm just completely out of it, Drew. I might need to go for a run later. But at least the weather's starting to shape up now. We're not going to be dealing with, goodness, I was talking to Ian Sarakin
Don't
on
say
Saturday.
it. Don't say it.
6 degrees at kickoff against LAFC on CCC. I will never forget how cold that day was.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that cold again.
So these days when the weather is great, comparatively speaking, at least, like I'm not going to complain, even if there's a little bit of wind, which I'm seeing right now. So, but as you mentioned, we're starting to slowly work our way into the summer, and that's when the schedule really gets congested with midweek games, Leagues Cup coming up later. Like the schedule's going to get crazy pretty quick, Drew. So.
Yeah, well, it sure will. But I do feel like the Rapids have put themselves in a good spot here in the table. It's been a positive start to the season. There are some examples where we feel like maybe we left a few points on the table, and I don't think that's necessarily the case on Saturday, and I know we're going to get into it. I don't think they left points on the table so much as
we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Y'all know
I
what
know you're
talking
eager to
about.
get into it, so am I, Drew. But before we get into all of that, looking back at the Colorado Rapids versus Seattle Sounders match that took place here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park this past Saturday, we do need to take a moment, I would say more than a moment, to acknowledge the fact that our head coach, Chris Armas, this upcoming Saturday will be inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. I mean, that's an incredible achievement for someone who was an incredible influential player in the league with the U.S. men's national team during his playing days, which is a big reason as to why he's being inducted to the National Hall of Fame. But then you look at his coaching career, what he's done in his coaching career in the United States as an assistant with the New York Red Bulls, currently with the Colorado Rapids, right? It is more than deserved for not just the professional that Chris has been between being a player and a coach, but the human being that he is, Drew.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people now, of course, just think about his coaching career, right? Because it's been interesting. A lot of success at Red Bull, struggled at TFC, went to England, was at Manchester United, was at Leeds United, comes back to the Rapids and is having some success here. But people don't realize what a great player he was as well. Just both sides of the ball, man. And I was fortunate or unfortunate to get to play against him a couple times. And this guy was just a worker and a grinder. And the energy that you see him coaching with is the energy that he played with. He wasn't going to let anybody beat him easily, right? And in fact, not many people did beat him. He, MLS Cup winner back in '98, and he kind of ran the middle of the park for the Chicago Fire, and of course LA Galaxy right before that,
yeah.
But Chris Armas as a player, and then you have a great quote from I believe Landon Donovan, describing Chris Armas as a player.
Yeah.
This guy, you would lose sleep at night before the match against Chris Armas sides because of just the work that he put in and how quality he was.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience there, Drew.
Yeah.
Sounds like you did not enjoy playing against Chris, but I think that speaks to how good of a player that he was. Like, and as you mentioned, that it's with Landon Donovan, Tim Howard, the podcast that they have. I was listening to that one week, and they I can't remember what the context of the conversation was, but I just very clearly remember Landon saying, Chris was just one of those guys on the national team. For those who didn't know, he was obviously influential with the national team. Unfortunate to not play in World Cups just because of injuries with the bad timing with that. Landon had mentioned that Chris Armas was one of those guys on the team, on the U.S. men's national team, that when he came off the pitch, you kind of had to think a little bit, okay, what are we going to do now? That wasn't to demean or belittle kind of the other players that would be on that roster. That spoke to just how influential and how good Chris Armas was as that six who would just break up plays and like that was his superpower, as he likes to describe it. Like, he knew what his superpower was, to be influential in the game, whether it's at the club level and obviously at the national team level. So it's very exciting to kind of be a part of this, as well as a club and as individuals, folks here at the club, to be able to be a part of that moment in some small way with Chris, that we get to see him as a Colorado Rapids head coach join the National Soccer Hall of Fame. And just one little bit, I remember it was in the off season when we did the little surprise for him. For folks, if you haven't seen it, we had put it out on our social channels and on the website and everything, where we gave Chris Armas the surprise that he was going to be inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. The club had flown his family out, friends, just a bunch of people out to be able to share this moment with him. We had Marcelo Balboa, who is already in the National Soccer Hall of Fame, provide the news to him, say, hey man, you're one of us now, and you're joining kind of this club of legends, if you will, at the national level of what is soccer in this country. There was one little thing that I really took away from it, was one of Chris's brothers who came up to me and went out of his way to do it, and said, for the whole digital team, at least here, so a shout out to the Rapids digital team, that it made a lot of sense that Armas was getting this recognition, in terms of being inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame through the Rapids, and all the work and all the prep that was done to kind of provide the coverage and showcase this big moment for Chris. So that was just one little thing I wanted to close out on with this news. But a huge congratulations, Chris. I know you do tune in to the podcast and listen to whatever Drew and I are blabbering on about every once in a while. But if there's anything worth paying attention to, is just that we want to really extend this huge message of congratulations and even thank you, just because of what you've done for this club in the year and a half that you've been here. So we're super happy for you, Chris, and
you deserve it, man.
Yeah, more than deserved for you, Chris. So with that, Drewby, after some much deserved love for our head coach, we're going to talk about the match that we had on the weekend between the Colorado Rapids and the Seattle Sounders. So as we get into the highlights, Drew, this is a match that, a lot of I wouldn't say angst, but definitely you're looking forward to a tough match against the Seattle Sounders side that has shown that they were good, right? Right off the jump here, Hafnarfjall, early chance off a corner kick.
Set pieces. It would have been nice to have gotten an early goal. I think we win comfortably if this goes in, but rolled on in the right place at the right time.
And then Cole just tremendously well with the high press, takes the ball off Yamar and just hits the post.
Does everything right. The wins the ball back. I think he could have taken an extra touch here, but elects to shoot, and just unlucky, man.
Seattle here with the cross turned into shot, but Nico, who was making his MLS debut, first ever match with the first team, great save here.
Yeah, Nico looked good. Early test and does well with it.
And then here the Rapids just fell asleep for a hot second, but it was enough for the Sounders to get the 1-0 lead.
Sounders are a savvy veteran team, and if you switch off for a half second, they're going to punish you, and they did. And this is a big moment. This this is why they leave. One of the main reasons they leave with a point, and you can't switch off at the back.
And this Georgie's Georgie, man. What else can I say?
What do you want me to say about this goal? He's a master at free kicks, right? Reminds me of some of the top free kick takers in this league, and he can do it in many different ways, including going under the wall. The technical ability to be able to pull this off, much less the audaciousness to even try it. But
this angle right here, my goodness.
Nothing Fry can do about it.
And then now this chance here, cross from Kevin Cabral, Hafnarfjall header, 2-1 lead for the Rapids, or so they thought, Drew.
It's called a foul, but it's not a foul, and you can't review it because it's blown dead as soon as the ref blows his whistle, and so you can't go to VAR. But it should have been a goal.
And then despite that one last chance, a Kevin Cabral header, they thought they had it, but Stefan Fry, huge save for Seattle.
Huge save, good header from Kevin Cabral, and just frustrating not to leave with all 3 points, Mike.
We'll get into that in just a little bit there, Drew B. But in terms of the match stats, looking at how this match played out statistically wise, so for the Colorado Rapids, Drew, 14 shots versus the 8 for Seattle Sounders, 4 shots on goal for the Rapids versus 3 from the Sounders. Corner kicks, where the Rapids found a lot of success and a lot of openings, they had 8 on the night versus 2 for the Seattle Sounders. And this really stuck out to me, but made a lot of sense after watching the match back, Drew. 53.8% of the possession for the Rapids versus 46.2% possession of for the Seattle Sounders. My goodness, say that 30 times faster. So the Rapids seeing more of the ball there in that instance, which was kind of very surprising to me. But I'm gonna get your thoughts on this match, Drew, in terms of how you felt this all played out. But that was definitely something that's kind of took me by surprise a little bit, since the Rapids are a team that don't mind conceding a little bit of possession because of the way they like to play and kind of catch teams in transition. But overall, your thoughts, Drew? What did you make of this match between the Colorado Rapids and the Seattle Sounders?
Overall, I thought it was a very good performance. I thought our pressure high up the field was really good. We won the ball back a lot of times in advanced positions, and were able to launch attacks with a shorter field, which is always a good sign. I think the possession with Seattle sat in a little bit deeper, which they're comfortable doing, and hoping and thinking that their playmakers will be able to find the opportunities to get chances for them. And the goal conceded was, them thinking smart and being clever and taking a quick free kick. But I thought the Rapids played well overall. Do we want to talk about the goal that was not a goal? Because it wasn't a disallowed goal technically, right, Mike?
Technically, yes. So I know, obviously, we're all there in the stadium, and we saw what happened and how it played out, and I could see the fans were pleading with the referee and booing as well. They made their thoughts very clear on this, asking for VAR. So yes, they were in their right to ask for it. However, the way that it played out, and you mentioned it earlier as we're going through the highlights, Drew, because the ref did not wait for the play to finish all the way through with the ball going into the back of the net, considering where that play was developing in Seattle's 18-yard box, because the ref had blown the whistle before the play had finally finished, everything stopped there. So technically speaking, the goal didn't even happen, or the ball did not go into the back of the net. It was a foul right then and there from Rafa Navarro, who had theoretically pushed Yeimar. So with the ref blowing the whistle, that means no opportunity to go to VAR was available. Had the ref waited for the play to finish out with the goal and everything, then VAR would naturally, as it is always meant to on any situation with a goal, you can go back and review the play if needed. So that is the explanation as to why that goal was not even called off. There was just a foul called before that. Right. So that just for fans who were wondering why no VAR took place, that is how that all developed on the referee's side of things in terms of what, he blew the whistle and that was it. So I know a lot of folks and the fans very, very clearly made their thoughts heard and felt after that call.
As they should, because it's a bad call. And you said had the ref let the play go on. It's very hard to ask a ref to let the play go on just in case a goal happens or whatever. I'm not going to fault the ref for that, but it's a bad call. It's not a foul, right? There's contact all over the field in the penalty area every single game. Not 2 or 3 minutes go by, and I thought there were a couple soft fouls called in this game where the ref needs to let the play go on, right? And this at the end of a match, a very good match between two very good teams, and Rafa Navarro does everything right. It's a great cross from Kevin Cabral. He gets up over Yeimar, gives him a little bit of a bump, no problem at all. If I'm a defender, I'm bumping the forward every single time, especially if I have position. And Rafa Navarro had position, and Yeimar goes down because he felt contact. And the referee buys into it, and it's a bad call. And so I don't blame VAR. I don't blame the system. You can't VAR that. I understand that. I know that I get the frustrations with it because the ball does go in the back of the net, but it's a bad call, and the Rapids should leave with all 3 points.
Yeah, I think that's just where if the ref takes a beat, just let the play develop a little bit. Clearly he's paying attention to the play. He's not letting VAR kind of waiting for it to step in to kind of re-ref the game, if you will, right? So credit to the ref to being very attentive to the play, but if he just gave it a hot second, that's where you kind of see the difference between earning 3 points for the Rapids and walking away with 1. And this is, almost 2 weeks in a row, but different sentiments in terms of how the Rapids felt with the draw, right?
And I don't want it to take away from great performances from Nico Hansen in his MLS debut. Did everything that was asked of him, right? Really not much he could have done on the goal conceded. Jackson Travis makes his first start of the season and looks good. Georgi Mihailovic does his thing. Rafa Navarro does his thing. Yappy looked good again, right? There was some very good performances all over the field. And so we feel a little snake bitten that we didn't leave with all 3 points, but a very good performance.
Yeah. I was listening to Brian Schmetzer's post-game press conference, and he said, I don't know what Chris Harmas told the guys at halftime, his players at halftime, but they just kept us under it. And you could see it, right? Because knowing how Seattle, that's why I said that the possession numbers surprised me.
Yeah.
Is because Seattle likes to possess the ball, but on the night you could see that they just struggled to play out of the back or keep possession in the midfield, and that's credit to the high press. As we saw, Cole in that one instance takes the ball off Yamar, goes the other way to try to score a goal, albeit he hits the post. But then whether it's the high press or if it's the counter press from the Rapids, like they were just on it on the night. It was a good performance overall, as you mentioned, Drew. It was just, obviously as we mentioned, that call that kind of interferes with that second goal for Rafa. But then the chances that the Rapids created altogether throughout the night and the performance altogether was very good. In terms of like picking out some performances, Drew, let's start with Georgi.
Yeah.
I mean, where else would we start, right? With Georgi, he has 6 goal contributions in the last 5 matches. Take that for what you will in terms of how productive he's been. 5 goals, 1 assist, 3 assists on the season so far. 5.0 expected assists. That's first in MLS, Drew. So that for me, that just says like Georgi is just seeing things and doing things that other players in this league just are not doing it to his level. Like he's literally the best in the league in terms of finding opportunities, creating opportunities for his teammates on the Colorado Rapids. And then 31 chances created, that's second in MLS. So just to kind of follow up on that stat there, Drew. Combined with Rafa, it's 13 goal contributions between the two of them. So what did you make of Georgi's performance on the night, including that incredible goal that he had?
Let's not just talk about his performance on the night. Let's just talk about his performance on the season so far.
Yep.
He's playing at MLS best 11 levels right now. And I know Dax McCarty came out with his early season best 11 last week on the MLS website, and Georgi not being included. Okay, I know there's a lot of teams in this league, so I'll let it slide, and I like Dax, but Georgi Mihailovic is as influential as any midfielder in the league right now with his contributions, with his expected assists. Like do me a favor. And he sees the field unlike, all but maybe 5 or 10 other players in this league. And then the ability and the quality to be able to pull off what he's trying to do from some of the passes he plays to the free kicks that he takes. Like this one against Seattle, it's just... And I said it's audacious, and it's also preparation. Like Chris Sharp has identified, Seattle doesn't put somebody under the wall. And so Georgi Mihailovic, and Chris Sharp, of course, being a goalkeeper coach and set-piece coach, we talk about him all the time, of course, because it's special. But Georgi Mihailovic, then the recognition, I'm very close to the box here. It's going to be difficult for me to get this up over the wall and under the crossbar. Says, I don't know if anybody saw, he whispered something to Cole right before he took it. He told Cole, I'm going under the wall here, right? And then to be able to pull it off, right, with the pace that he put on it, keeping it low, keeping it just inside the post so Stephen Fry can't get over to it. You saw his celebration. He goes over to Sharpie and signals under the wall. This guy's playing at levels right now. The spots that he takes up, just it's very clever. It's very smart. It buys him just a little bit of extra time, right, kind of in those half spaces. The play of Rafa Navarro around him, right? Maybe it's a little bit, well, Georgi's playing at a high level right now, so Rafa's playing at a high level, and then Yappy starts to play at a higher level, and maybe it's just a combination of all 3 of them just elevating each other's games, but Georgi Mihailovic is an all-star right now, and for me, he's an MLS best 11 right now. I know it's early. I haven't watched every single minute of every single match. But
really, Drew, you're slacking, man.
I am. I know. And I like Georgi, but even if I didn't, I would compliment his play.
Yeah. The numbers in his play speak for itself, Drew. We can wax poetic all we want here on the podcast or anyone else, anywhere else on any platform that they want to talk about Georgi. His play and the numbers speak for themselves in terms of him really, truly being an all-star, having earned it this year. And then MLS Best 11, he's making a good run at it right now, albeit we're just only 10 games into the season of what is a very long MLS season. But his play and his numbers speak for themselves.
They do.
period.
Yep.
So George is one of the best in the league.
He
Period.
is.
One of the best players in the league.
He is.
A couple other guys, you had mentioned them earlier, Drew, that we wanted to make note of because it is very noteworthy, right? So Jackson Travis, someone that we had seen come onto the scene a little bit more as of last season because of a wrist injury. He hadn't seen any minutes this year up until this match against the Seattle Sounders, and I think did a very good job, earning that starting position at the left back, and doing a really good job stepping in for Sam Vines, who had been hurt. And then Jackson eventually, coming off and putting in a good shift, and Ian Murphy taking his place with Jackson, earning his first start, his first minutes for the 2025 MLS season. And then Nico Hansen. I mean, how about that, man, in terms of stepping up and really needing to show out in terms of having a confident, strong performance at goalkeeper. One of the most vital, I mean, every position is vital, right? But I think one of the most vital positions on the field, especially for someone who's basically meant to quarterback the team, right? If you're the center back, you would know this, Drew. As your center backs, you want to have that confidence from your goalkeeper, shouting out orders, giving you a lot of confidence with the save, with whatever it is, right? So for Nico to kind of step up and do what he did on the night in his MLS debut, props to him, man. Serious props to him.
Both Jackson Travis and Nico Hansen, good performances, and you've further earned and confirmed the trust of your teammates and your coaching staff and your fans. And what a big occasion for these two. Jackson, obviously, his first start of the season, and Nico, his MLS debut. Big occasion. Seattle in town, home game, perfect evening. Nico, he's very detail-oriented. I'm starting to realize that about him. I got to spend a little bit of time with him midweek just with some of his distribution, and you can just tell, man, this guy's hard on himself in all the right ways, and so he's hungry, he's driven, and he did everything he needed to do on the night, right? He had a couple decisions to make coming out on crosses, coming out to, snatch a ball played across the face, and it was a good performance in front of him as well, defensively, but it doesn't matter. He's a part of that. His communication's good. And Jackson Travis, he's positive. He's front-footed. He's got a lot of energy. He fits Chris Armas' system well. I think we're going to ask him about that a little bit later, but good performances from two young players.
Yeah. That's what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's always what you want to see, and you love to see. And I think Chris and the coaching staff give that confidence to the young guys to step up and feel like they're not out of place. If anything, they should belong in this group. And it showed with Jackson and Nico with the performances they put in. And that's just a couple guys from just this one night. How many times have we talked about young guys stepping in into the first team and doing their bit and doing it really well?
Yep.
Huge props to Jackson for getting his first minutes of the 2025 season after coming back from that wrist injury. And then Nico Hansen, man, what a way to kind of make your debut under a lot of pressure against a good Seattle Sounders side and doing what he did on the night. So that's going to do it for our recap for that Rapids Seattle Sounders match over the weekend. But you know what we're going to talk about next?
Let me guess. Rapids app?
Yeah, brother.
Push notifications?
Yes.
The referee had his push notifications turned on Saturday night. So you get that Rapids app and get your push notifications turned on. What? I had to do it.
Oh, man.
Lineups, news, match updates, and giveaways. When you download the Rapids app,
you had to get one in there.
I did.
I mean, listen, I'm not. I can't argue because, I think everybody felt that way, felt a certain way after that call. But nonetheless, that's that. Well, bygones be bygones there. So in terms of but Drew is right. Yes, you want to make sure if you don't already have the Rapids app downloaded, which is free, by the way, it is free to download. You want to make sure you have push notifications on as well. Why? As you mentioned, as I'm losing it when you're dropping.
For good reasons. For good reasons.
Yes. So listen. It's been a few times now that throughout the season so far through the Rapids app with push notifications turned on, that you will get a notice of, but specifically when you're at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, that we might be doing giveaways. So recently that we had somebody who, because they had their push notifications on their app, showed up to the 4Runner that we had, the SUV out there on the southeast corner of the stadium. And they were the first ones to show up after they got the notification, say, hey, meet us here at the 4Runner. And if you do, you get a Headwaters kit.
Nice.
So kind of, a lot of incentive there to kind of have the
that's
Rapids.
awesome.
Dude, I had to buy mine.
I wondered if you were going to say they got the 4Runner.
Well, I wouldn't mind
but
that.
The Headwaters kit's really nice, too.
So there's giveaways. You can get a free Headwaters kit out of it. I had to buy mine, bro.
Maybe for the future,
I should see if I had the Rapids app downloaded, I would have gotten the Headwaters kit. But that's what happens when you don't have the Rapids app downloaded and miss out on opportunities like that. So don't be like Mike.
Don't be like Mike.
Don't be like Mike. Don't be like Mike. Download the Rapids app and have your push notifications turned on today. All right, we're gonna go off the pitch with defender Jackson Travis. Jackson, how we doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mikey.
Now, Jackson, I'm going to start off with the fact that you got your first minutes this past Saturday against the Seattle Sounders of this 2025 season. Your first minutes there after dealing with the wrist injury that you had from earlier this season. How did it feel to be back, man?
It felt really good to be back actually. It was a hard like when I first got the wrist at the beginning, it was tough. It was tough to deal with. I mean, and being out with your teammates every day on the field, and not being able to play with them and not being able to join in with them is tough, but you get through it. I mean, it's part of the game. So you get through it and then you get right back to it. So back to the work now.
Jackson, I want to talk about your growth a little bit over the course of the last year plus, because when Chris Armas got here, we knew he's somebody that believes in young players, and you're one of
Yeah.
those players that he believed in from day one. So how do you feel like you've grown as a player and as a professional this last year under Chris Armas?
Yeah. I feel like he's added a lot of clarity to my game. Like a lot of times I feel like I guess since a young age we just go out there and we just play. But under Chris, he's able to always see I've always been able to seek out solutions like through his clarity. So like I know what I want to do when I get on the ball. So everything's a lot clearer when I get the ball. So you're able to think a lot faster. And then he just gives you that he gives you that confidence to your game as well. Like he allows you to be you and do what you know you can do. So every time I go out in the field, I just know he's back in my game and he's gonna allow me to go out there and make mistakes and do what I need to do.
And let's talk about his actual system, Chris's, right? Because it's very different from what we had before with Rob and Frazier, right? Chris, it's very direct, it's very
Yeah.
energetic, front footed, which I feel like fits your style extremely well, and Chris does also. So what is it like playing in kind of a simpler but fun system like that?
I mean, I'll tell you what, you enjoy the football a lot more because, especially as a fullback, under Chris, he allows us to get forward. He encourages us to get forward. He says a lot of times that the fullbacks are going to be the difference of the game. So
Hmm.
even last night, he told me that he wanted me to really show that attacking side that he knows I can do and that I know I can do. So he gives us that full freedom to go in and express ourselves and be ourselves. So uh, under that, you just know you can go out there and play your best game.
Now, Jackson, you being a young defender, you have the benefit of being able to seek guidance from, learn from, work with a veteran core of defenders that we have at the club right now: Reggie Cannon, Keegan Rosenberry, Andres Maxu, Chidozie Awaziem. You're like for like with Sam Vines, right? There's a long list of guys that you kind of pull experiences and and a bunch of knowledge from, right? So, what's that relationship like with that veteran group of defenders, and what have you been able to learn from them?
I feel like I've been able to learn a lot, especially with Vines, like being able to take from his game, watching him, Reggie and Keegan, seeing what they do on the other side as right backs. But we can take a lot of things from each other's game, and I feel like with the competition that's amongst the fullbacks, it allows us all to get better. Like training this year is the quality and training is so high, and the level is high. I feel like we're getting better and better every day, and then even Cheeto and Max, like the wisdom they come with and allowing us to the things that I've learned from them is just so unparalleled because I know that I can make mistakes and they're to back me and they're there to back me and then they're always there to encourage me and always lift me up. So I mean, with this veteran group that we have as a defensive unit, I mean, I think we're gonna do special things this year.
Jackson, do you have any personal goals, whether it be for this season or beyond? And I know not everybody wants to always share their personal goals, but do you have any goals that you are willing to share with us just moving forward?
Yeah. I would say like some personal goals for me is like I finally got my feet wet last year, like we get in some games, but I really want to be able to somewhat establish myself this year in the league, and I want to be able to maybe if I can't even double the amount of games I got last year, and maybe with the starts as well. Like, and I feel like if I can do that, then I can get my experience up a little bit more, and I can just keep growing because the more games I get, the only the better I'll get. So I just want to really establish myself this year a little bit more than I did last year.
I love it, man.
I'd love to hear that as well, Jax. Now, finally, the last thing I had for you here. So, Jax, when we had Yappy on the podcast not too long ago, he talked about the fact that he likes to play 2K with a group that you guys have, you included in that group. Brother, he put you on blast and said you're the worst of the group in 2K, man.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm giving you the opportunity to protest that, to go against that, and be like, listen, Yappy, you got it all wrong, brother.
I mean, look. Let me tell you something, Mikey. I can only hold my hand up and say I'm not the best 2K player amongst this team. Now, do I think personally I'm the worst? I do not. I totally do not. But I can't say that I'm better than Yappy. He's a great player. He's a good power forward, and I mean a good center, and he can have that. But Michael Edwards, my God, I don't want anybody saying that he's better than me. And you know, he's done some things better than me, but he is not a better 2K player than me. And I just want to make that right here, make that statement right now.
We need to bring Mikey on at some point to defend himself now.
We're just going to bring in that whole group literally just to make their case for not being the worst 2K player. So it's going to happen.
Maybe that'll be an entire podcast episode.
Yappy put me on blast. He put me on blast, but I mean, I could let him have it, man, because he's a lot better 2K player than me. He's been playing a lot longer than me. I'm still new to the game, so I can only hold my hand up.
He didn't say that. He didn't say he was like a 10-year veteran playing against a rookie here. That seems a little unfair.
Yeah, I can only hold my hand up, man, and say, Yappy, you can have it. But Michael Edwards, no, sir. I can't take that
Mikey.
from him.
Ball's in your court.
Yeah, I was gonna say at this rate we're gonna have Mikey on the podcast and have to make his case. But nonetheless, Jax, brother, we appreciate you for taking the time to be able to join us here for Off the Pitch. And of course, it was great to see you get your first minutes of the season coming back from that wrist injury. So thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. Y'all have a good day.
All right, Drew, let's go around MLS as we typically do. We always like to stay informed with what's going on around the league. We're going to start off first, though, with Western Conference standings. So as it pertains to the Rapids, they're currently in fifth. They remain fifth after earning the 1 point from that 1-1 draw against the Seattle Sounders on the weekend. Looking a bit further up the table, Vancouver Whitecaps, deservedly so, with 23 points at the top of the West after earning that result against Minnesota. We're going to get into that a little bit. Portland, they beat the Galaxy last night 4-2. At Dignity Health Sports Park, so that puts them at 18 points. 6 points, Drew, separates second and 10th, if you want to talk about how clogged up and how crazy the West looks right now. And then with San Jose, they're now below the playoff line. They have just 4 points in their last 8 matches, Drew. The West is looking wild. It's properly looking like the Wild Wild West.
It is. It is, yeah. 6 points separating, 8 positions? And it's still relatively early in the season, and so that's not completely, that weird, I guess. But it does make every point important. We know that, and so it's still interesting to see LA Galaxy all the way at the bottom too.
10 matches, no wins.
Yeah,
like that is. I mean, I get that, Ricky. You're making. Jeez.
Here he goes.
It's Monday morning, am I right?
Mickey Mouse.
And when you're missing someone like Ricky Puig, man, that's gonna make a difference for a team like that. But good, I didn't expect that it was gonna be this bad. So that's quite something for the Galaxy right now that they got going on. But in terms of one of the teams that I wanted to touch base on with around MLS is the Vancouver Whitecaps, deservedly so, Drew. I know you're getting tired of talking about the Whitecaps, but it's deserving, man. Like they've fully earned it with right now how they're doing. So on Thursday in CCC play, they were in Vancouver for the first leg against Inter Miami. They won 2-0 on the night, which is a huge result to take to Miami, who they will be playing this Wednesday for the second leg, which is going to decide who's going to move on to the final. They, yesterday against Minnesota United, won 3-1 at Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's one heck of a week for the Vancouver Whitecaps, Drew, and still more to look forward to in this upcoming week as well.
Let's talk about Sebastian Berhalter, too. He's, breakout player of the year candidate right now, and really that entire midfield himself with Pedro Vite and Andres Cubas is probably the best midfield in Major League Soccer right now. But Berhalter, and it's not just his last name, he is a dynamic player, both sides of the ball. He's scoring goals. His service on set pieces is very dangerous. Defensively, he's physical, he's hard. He's having a wonderful season right now and deserves a bit of credit here on our podcast.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I'm always going to get behind a Georgia Hoffa, any of the Rapids players, but like you have to be able to recognize good players when you see them around the league, right? And Sebastian Berhalter has absolutely shown out with showing what he's very capable of doing. Part of the reason why the Vancouver Whitecaps are having the success that they are in MLS play and clearly in CCC play as well. So moving on to Miami Dallas, dude, this was just a shootout, man. It was a heck of a game. Dallas on the road at Miami, 4-3 win. What a heck of a performance. That's a huge win for Dallas. That hands Miami their first loss of the season in MLS play. Miami could have won that match. Granted, they did rotate in anticipation of this matchup that they have coming up on Wednesday against the Vancouver Whitecaps, but that's a huge result nonetheless for FC Dallas.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no Messi, no Jordi Alba, no Luis Suarez, but still, I don't want it to take away from FC Dallas still going on the road on a Sunday afternoon and getting all 3 points after going behind 2 goals in the second half to then score 3 goals, in the last 25, 30 minutes is impressive from FC Dallas. You just wonder if, is CCC catching up with Miami a little bit, but you also can kind of put it aside because it was such a heavily rotated squad to prepare for leg 2. And you just, man, it's so hard to decide what could happen in leg 2 because Vancouver has been playing just at such a high level, but they have to go to Miami where they will be at full strength, and so I would like to say normally it'd be like Miami are still in it with a shout, even down to 2 goals and no away goals scored. But Vancouver, like I would be more surprised right now if Miami do overturn the deficit and go to the final. Just because of the level that Vancouver's playing at right now.
Did not see that coming, Drew.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, seriously, as we've done plenty of times on this podcast already, and just really so, full credit to the Vancouver Whitecaps because of what they've been doing, the form they've kept up between MLS and CCC, because that is very, very difficult to do. We've seen that with literally every MLS team that tries to make a run in CCC. But hey, man, I think now that you say it out loud, I think it starts to make me think, you know what? It's not out of the realm of possibility for Vancouver to really shut down Miami, even in Miami, and move on to the final for CCC. And they'll see, I'm trying to remember who's on the other side of that bracket there with, I think, Cruz Azul and Tigres, if I remember correctly.
Yes. 1-1, I believe.
Yeah.
Going to Cruz Azul now.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting as well. That's another one to watch. But in terms, as it pertains to Vancouver and Miami, they're playing this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time for that second leg of CCC, which I know I'm going to watch. I'm fully tuned into that. Lastly, Drew, wow. Nashville, Chicago.
There was a 7-2 game.
Yeah, Nashville dropped a touchdown on Chicago.
Is that scoregami? Has that ever happened in Major League Soccer? 7-2.
Possibly.
I mean, I'm sure it probably has, but like, what are y'all doing?
They
were playing baseball.
Or
football.
Yeah, either way, man. Like, so Sam Sturridge had 4 goals on the night. Hani Mukhtar had another 2 in there. Yeah, man, that's tough.
Nashville's good. Nashville's good. And Chicago, they're interesting. They're always interesting, right? With Berhalter taking over, they've been better. Well, it's hard to say that coming off a 7-2 loss, but I do feel like Nashville under Callahan have been pretty good, and they're not just everybody's used to them just sitting in very deep and getting the ball to Hani Mukhtar and hoping he can make things happen. Make things happen. But Sam Sturridge does have the capabilities of putting the ball in the back of the net, and so that those two, if they find form, can be a dangerous duo. But I do feel like Nashville are an improved team and kind of a fun team to watch right now as well.
Yeah. I think they've turned a corner from like last year and a half or so, where it wasn't that Nashville of before that we saw.
Right.
Were granted a very different style of play, but would get results nonetheless. Hani Mukhtar eventually had that MLS MVP season in 2022, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So, and then BJ Callahan getting the better of his old head coach. Both of them being at the national team. Greg Berhalter's the head coach, BJ Callahan being an assistant. The apprentice, if you will, getting better of the master in that sense. So I'm sure BJ Callahan was enjoying that one a little bit. So that'll do it for MLS in terms of keeping tabs of what's going on around the league with some of those results, especially that touchdown that Nashville dropped on Chicago. But let's move on to Pitstock. Drew, we're going to talk the Colorado Rapids versus DC United. They will be going to the nation's capital, to Washington, D.C., to take on DC United in this upcoming match on the weekend. That's going to be Saturday, May 3rd, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time at Audi Field. Of course, if you're not traveling to DC by chance or need to kind of tune in elsewhere, You can always catch the matches on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Last 3 matches for DC, Drew, in terms of their form. They had a 1-0 loss versus Cincinnati. They earned a 2-1 win at New York Red Bulls at Sports Illustrated Stadium. And then their most recent result on the weekend was at Philly, a 3-0 loss at Philly, which I did not know that they hadn't won there since 2014, if I recall the stat that they had mentioned. So it's been a minute since DC have won in Philly.
Yeah,
tough place for them to go to, apparently.
Sure is.
Records right now as they stand in 2025 for both sides. For DC, they're 2-5-3. Colorado 4-2-4. DC on 9 points out in the East. Colorado have 16 points out here in the West. 11 goals scored so far for DC, 14 for Colorado. Goals against 22 for DC. That 6-1 drubbing against San Jose didn't exactly help a couple weeks ago. 14 goals against the Colorado Rapids. Average possession, and like I said, as we can typically imagine, DC, they like to possess the ball a little bit. We're going to get into that a little bit, Drew. Right now, average possession of 51.2% possession, whereas the Rapids have 44.9% possession so far in this 2025 season. So, Drew, as it pertains to DC, I think the main man for them is Christian Benteke in every sense of the word, right? Not just the name, but in terms of how the play goes through him, to him, on whatever sort of like preposition you want to throw in there. Like everything revolves around Christian Benteke. However, he has not been available the last couple matches. He had to come off early in that 2-1 win at the New York Red Bulls a couple weeks ago. In terms of Benteke, with his influence statistically, how influential he is for this DC group. 5 goals and 1 assist, involved in 66% of DC's goals, leads the league in shots with 44, and with shots on goal at 21. 6.4 expected goals rate for Christian Benteke. That's 3rd in MLS. So this is a man that, yes, it's easy to know that everything goes through him. It's another thing to stop him, because clearly he's finding those opportunities on goal, whether he's scoring them or at least getting the chances. And then defensively, Drew, this is a DC side that's been a bit vulnerable, as we mentioned a bit earlier, with the 22 goals that they've allowed so far this 2025 season. That's tied for worse in MLS. And then they have 1 clean sheet in 10 matches so far, as well as with the fouls committed as well. Most yellow cards at 29, 3rd most fouls committed per match, which is around 15. So with this DC side, Drew, yes, as I mentioned earlier, that it's everything revolves around Benteke. But the thing is, with him not being available these last couple weekends for them, who knows if he'll be available this weekend for this match coming up against the Colorado Rapids on Saturday. So maybe that changes things a little bit for them, or does it, right? So if it's not Benteke, they're like, who's somebody that you're looking out for on the DC side of things, Drew?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because Dambaji came on to replace him, not to replace him, but started in Philly at the weekend and looked like Dambaji. He's a handful, he's bigger, stronger than people realize. He's a good target, but super pacey, right? Creates some chances for himself just, because of his pace and athleticism. Didn't score, but looked like Dambaji. It was a handful, but then he goes off what looks like nursing an injury, right? Joao Peglo, who scored both goals for them at Sports Illustrated Field. By the way, when did that change happen?
This past offseason is very strange.
Okay. Sports Illustrated Stadium Field. What is it?
Yeah.
One or the other.
One or the other.
But he picked up a knock right before their game in Philadelphia, and so it's like who replaces Benteke if he can't play? This is a tough team to pin down, because everything that you just said makes you think the Rapids need to go in to Audi Field thinking we're taking all 3 points here, and we don't care who you put on the field. We know that you say you like to possess the ball a little bit now, but you still kind of just throw it up to Benteke when things don't look right. You want to press high, and so you leave spaces in behind. You've allowed 22 goals. Why not have the confidence, and you have a week of preparation, to go and do everything you need to do to get yourself ready to go to Audi Field and take all 3 points. It reminds me of 2 weeks ago going to Houston, a team that their form was a little bit off. They hadn't started the season well, and you went in there confident, played your game, and should have taken all 3 points. You concede very, very late to their new DP signing in Linger. But the Rapids should not feel very good, but just go in there with a lot of confidence of being themselves and taking all 3 points.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Dambaji, who of course is someone that Rapids,
Yeah, of course.
Rapids fans and everyone at the club will be familiar with, who played a huge role in the, when he came in the summer, played a huge role in that 2021 run, the last stretch of it, right, to finish top of the West. So the Rapids will be very familiar with someone like that who causes a lot of problems in the way that you listed out, Drew. One guy for me that I want to make note of on DC is Aaron Herrera.
Yeah.
So yes, everything is around Christian Benteke, the number 9, whoever's going to be in that position, be it Dambaji if Christian Benteke does come back.
Yeah.
But Aaron Herrera,
We have no idea who that is going to be.
Yeah, we don't, just because of how things have kind of developed lately
Yeah.
for DC, unfortunately. But another guy that it would be worth noting is Aaron Herrera, because of, I mean, this guy just runs back and forth along that right-hand side, and he could probably do another 90 minutes. He runs that much and covers that much ground for DC, and then with some of the precision that he provides in the crosses as well, right? If it's not some of the interplay further back in the pitch, it's further up the pitch when he's putting in a cross for Benteke, Dambaji, whoever's in the box, and DC to receive that service. Really good service from him. So Aaron Herrera is going to be a guy with a huge motor that the Rapids will have to keep tabs on, because he just goes and goes and goes, man, and he's effective with his play as well. Obviously, Rapids will be familiar with him from his time with RSL before he went to Montreal and then eventually DC. So this is a familiar face for the Rapids, a familiar foe for the Rapids, and Aaron Herrera. I asked you about DC in terms of a player that I wanted to hear from you, who you wanted to keep tabs on. But Drew, on the Rapid side of things, who's a player that you want to keep tabs on who can make a difference here against DC United?
I'm going to highlight the center backs. I do feel like, again, DC say they want to, they do possess the ball a little bit more, but I still think they're very vertical, they're very direct, and whether it's Benteke, whether it's Baji, whether it's somebody else, they still have Stroud on the right side as well. Servania in the middle of the field. First and second balls are going to be key for me, right? If they are going to go direct and look to play higher up the pitch, and you look at Maxu and Chito Awazium. If it is those two, they're going to have their hands full, right? But they need to command the back line. They need to command the group defensively. I think we've probably allowed, I don't want to touch on a negative, but a few softer goals here in the past couple weeks that need to be cleaned up. And it's focus, it's concentration, but it's keeping guys just switched on and on the same page over the course of 90 plus minutes on the road, all the way across the other side of the country. Look to your two center backs, whoever it ends up being on Saturday night, to lead this group and to make sure defensively we're going to set ourselves up to get a shutout, right, and to limit DC as much as possible, and give the freedom to Georgie, to Hoffa, to Cole to go the other way and score the goals that we need to take all 3 points.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm going to play off that, Drew. You had mentioned it in there, and what you felt is going to be important from the center backs, right, to be step up in this match, especially against a side that's going to bomb balls forward to whoever is going to be up top. Like we said, Benteke, Baji, whoever that may be. But you had mentioned second balls, Drew. So that's going to be huge, because this is a DC side that likes to possess the ball. But if they find a moment where things aren't really clicking, they're just going to kind of bail and bomb it forward to whoever they can. And they're attentive to that. They're aware of that bit as well, where they're going to look for those second balls and see if they can kind of scrap something kind of further up the pitch and go the other way. So second balls are going to be super key, not just from the center backs, but I think from everybody in the midfield, on the defenders, anybody who can pick up a second, third ball. After DC kind of tries to find some of those long balls for their forward players, that's going to be huge for the Rapids to pick up on those and find themselves going the other way, rather than DC picking up that second ball and going towards the Rapids goal. So
Chris Armas is a big second, win the second balls. The team that wins the most amount of second balls over the course of a game typically wins that game, right? And so that's a good one, and that's details, right? And so I'm going to take my key and kind of play off that as well, is details. Do all the little things, because this is a team, like I just spoke about a little bit ago, that you should go on the road and take all 3 points from, right? And so I want this Rapids group to be very detail oriented, right? Don't allow quick free kicks to catch you off guard, right? Close out the halves, right? Don't concede last 5 minutes of the first half or of the second half, right? Make sure just all the, moving your feet when you're defending 1v1, right? When you're challenging, right? Can you give a little bump, right? Without committing a foul, to win the ball, right? Can you communicate the guys around you, pull them in, right? Make sure you're compact. Just the little details have to be focused on against a team that is asking a lot of questions of itself, that has a lot of injuries, that, might start to feel like they don't have a whole lot to lose right now. And I know it's still early, right? But their form just has not been good. They've been conceding goals. And so the little details for me will be important, right, to make sure we set ourselves up well to go and be who we are, do what we do, and take all 3 points at Audi Field.
Couldn't agree more. This is a Rapid side, as we saw last season, right? That they just kind of grew and developed with each game that kind of went on, and that just naturally happens with every team, right? Especially when you're bringing in new players, and then when you try to come into the Rapids and understand what the Chris Armas system is like, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you play in this day and age now, the 4-2-2-2. So there's always little nuances that players, coaches, everybody's going to have to kind of be on the same page with and understand to eventually see some of the results and some of the play that we're now seeing, right? When you compare it to when we first started the season, there's a little thing here and there. We'll see how this develops. So taking that all into consideration, going to a DC side that we said that, albeit they're further down in the standings, can be dangerous with the fact that it might feel like they have nothing left to lose. Despite all that, though, I feel pretty good about the Rapids going to Audi Field and getting a result at DC United.
If they play their game, if they play with energy, if they play on the front foot and then give 3 to 5% more of just extra attention, then
you're walking away with 3 points.
Exactly.
You're walking away with 3 points.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
And as we mentioned, it's tough. It is hard. It is so hard to go on the road and earn any points in MLS. So if the Rapids to be in the position that they are right now to hopefully, put themselves in a position to earn 3 points, got to take advantage of it. So hopefully that's the case once we're back here in a week or so talking about the match over the weekend.
Absolutely.
So that was pretty thorough in terms of a breakdown of what we're expecting in this match between the Rapids and DC United. Any final thoughts, Drew, before we kind of...
Well, that's what we're here for, thoroughness.
Thorough. Yeah. At least I like to think we are.
Maybe we're not. I don't know.
If not, man.
I'm always tired after the podcast. So
me too.
We're doing, maybe we're not doing good work, but we're doing a lot of work.
Yeah. Wait, you're not on this trip, are you, Drew? No, you're not. I know you're on the
No,
road.
and Mike, you're going home, right? I should have thrown that in there. This is a place that you've spent some time with DC United, a club that you're familiar with. So I imagine, are you going to get possibly a home cooked meal?
No, it's just the timing isn't going to work out in terms of seeing folks until they get to the stadium. So I feel it a little bit when I talk about it, but like it's the club I grew up on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a kid, like my parents would take me to RFK Stadium, like to watch the games, La Barra Brava, in that section with the bouncing stands.
Marco Echeverri?
I couldn't watch.
Raul Diaz Arce?
Not Raul Diaz Arce. Jaime Moreno.
You're a young man, aren't you?
I would like to think so. But I was there for like Jaime Moreno's last game. Like, when I was working there at the club, I got to be a part of some cool moments, man. Like, especially as a kid who grew up on watching this club. It's nice. It's really nice to just go back home and like see family, of course, and then friends that I haven't seen, in God knows how long. And I just think of some of the moments that I've been a part of, right? Like last game at RFK Stadium, that was really emotional. Opening Audi Field, July 14, 2018. Like that was a tremendous moment. Wayne Rooney coming to the club.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this to you like off air, where like when I was a producer there as well, a video producer there, and like I happened to capture Wayne's first goal, which funny enough was against the Colorado Rapids, getting it past Tim Howard, an old Man U teammate of his. So it's nice, man. Like I'm really looking forward to this trip and just kind of be back home in a sense, between not just being in DC, but Audi Field, like, the place that I got to be part of that history, if you will, right? The short history. So.
Well, I hope everybody there is crying after the game on Saturday night.
Yeah, I know. That's where I'm literally very split right now in terms of how I feel about this game and how that result might play out. But I think the Rapids, they're in a very good position to earn all 3 points, Drew. So we'll see what comes of that at the end of it all. But I think they're in a very good position to earn all 3 points.
Just got to go do it.
Just go and do it. Just go and do it. You should take over. Because we forgot to mention, actually, along the way with Chris Armas. So I was going to say, you should go coach. Because you might need to, considering that Chris Armas, funny enough, like he's going to be leaving. So the ceremony that we mentioned that Chris will be a part of on Saturday, the same day as the DC game.
Yep.
That's at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, so 12 p.m. Central Time in Dallas.
In Frisco, Texas.
From there, Chris is going to take the airport, go to the airport,
he's
take a flight.
The airport with him.
If only. Take a flight from Dallas to DC that day.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be on the bench. I think maybe Chris Little, will step in terms of on the day filling the head coaching duties. But nonetheless, Chris is going to basically go on the amazing race from National Soccer Hall of Fame ceremony to the DC match later that night. So I think that's like Chris to a T. That's like it makes so much sense that he would want to do that, just trying to find a way to make things happen. So It's gonna be a wild week, wild day, particularly for Chris, who again, huge congrats, Chris, on being inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. We're super, super happy and proud of you, and we're glad that you, as the Colorado Rapids head coach, get to do so. I think that's it, Drew. I think we'll call it there now.
I'm done.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm gonna
All right.
go drink some coffee. No, take a nap.
Take a nap.
No, I'm probably gonna work out. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Well, while Drew is trying to figure out what he's going to do, hopefully you guys have a good week leading up to the DC game that we have on Saturday, like I mentioned. So you can always tune into MLS Season Pass or Apple TV to tune into that match. So that's going to do it for us from here. My thanks to the production crew and Rich and Miles, Drewby, of course, our resident Rapids legend, and myself, Mike Ravolo. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Colorado Rapids podcast. Have a good week, everybody.